Today's guest is Anu Muralidharan, COO at Expensify, board member and seasoned keynote speaker. She joined Expensify in 2015 with no set role, but quickly made her mark by solving critical and often overlooked problems. From fraud systems to payment products, she led the company through its IPO and now co-leads investor and analyst relations. Anu is known for her honest take on leadership, imposter syndrome, and what she calls the Castanza Experiment, intentionally doing the opposite of what she'd normally do. Anu, welcome to the Her Workplace Unfiltered podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
I haven't had a chance to really get to know you, and I know you've spoken at several Her Workplace events, so I'm really excited to learn more about you and hear your story.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah. So I want to first just talk about your career journey.
Yeah.
So you, at the beginning of your career, were put into these roles where you were doing kind of like the back end, dull, somewhat boring work.
Yeah.
And of course, that work is critical to any business. So I want to learn more about what kind of drew you to start there.
Yeah.
And how did your career evolve from that?
Yeah. So when I started at Expensify, I'd been working for almost a decade.
Okay.
And, I would summarize my desire for what I wanted to do in one very simple sentence. I just wanted to do something. And that sounds really weird, but, I worked for really large companies. And I felt like a lot of the time I was just making slides, pushing paper. And even when I was coding, I was an engineer to begin with. I didn't quite connect what I was doing with what was being sold or how it was generating any value for customers. Those were not words we used at all. So I was always sort of hounded by this feeling of, what am I doing? I've been making money for 10 years, and the sum total of all that is just some busy work, is what I felt. So when I joined Expensify, my singular goal was to do something. And so the way I approached it was a small company doing really well, very short-staffed because of that growth that was kind of outpacing resources. So my strategy was, what needs doing that nobody is doing? And that formed the basis of how I went about building my role. And I didn't even think about it so much as building my role. I thought about it as, what am I going to do today? Then slowly that expanded to, what am I doing this week, this month? And that's sort of how my role grew very organically. And, we'll talk about this later, but that was very counter to how I had always approached my career. Always made these master plans and had all these check boxes and milestones. And the way I approached it at Expensify was the exact opposite. And that's actually ultimately, I think, what delivered me to success.
So how did you make that mindset shift? Of, okay, I've been building my career for 10 years. I've been on this path, this trajectory, and I've hit all these milestones that I wanted. What led you to kind of make that shift and get uncomfortable?
So when I talk about this, I always want to stress this, but it's easy to see what somebody has done that they're talking about in retrospect as a strategy. Like, this was my strategy is the temptation to describe it. But it wasn't born out of a strategy. It was born more out of self-preservation. It was born out of frustration and a lot of pain. So the company I worked in before Expensify, I worked there 2 years and I was promoted twice in those 2 years. When I say that, people think it's an amazing thing. It sounds like an amazing thing. I made more and more money. And I was told I was executive material already. And that was by far the most depressing thing to me because I felt I'd done absolutely nothing. So I found myself constantly feeling worse And at a point in time, I sort of couldn't even get out of bed to go to work. I didn't want to do what I was doing. So I got to a point where it became something has to give because I can't keep going like this. And I was so frustrated by my every instinct that I felt had slowly but steadily gotten me to that point that I had been able to achieve everything I set out to achieve. And of course, it wasn't smooth sailing, but I would say there's not a single thing I wanted to achieve that I failed at, which all sounds amazing. And yet here I am, can't peel myself off the bathroom floor. So I sort of had to rewrite my script. So it was born out of that frustration that peaked to say, what is the exact opposite of what I've been doing? And I need to do that. And I gave myself 2 years. And I said, let's just see what happens. It's just 2 years in a trajectory of life. I can always go back to doing what I was doing if it doesn't work.
Yeah. So I want to talk more about that transition. Of, okay, so you're giving yourself 2 years. What was that like? Starting to work with Expensify, getting a little uncomfortable. And then how did that experience put you on the leadership track to where now you're the COO?
So it was definitely extremely difficult. It obviously didn't come naturally to me at all because it was the opposite of what I always wanted, opposite of how I always approached everything. And, it's funny. They say you should follow your gut, like always follow your instincts. They can't ever take you astray. But for me, I had to actually not listen to my instincts. So sometimes several times a day, there'd be this voice in my head, this is the dullest thing you're doing, or you are like employee number 62. And I would say that to myself, or not on purpose, but the voice in my head would sort of say it like an insult, like you're a nobody here. You're like employee number 62, like great strategy. And I guess my self-defense mechanism was to not listen to that. So I would focus on, okay, I'm not listening to that. I'm doing this other thing. That's what I'm doing. And I would continue to do that every day. But, it actually didn't take as long as it felt it took, because the exercise was really, and I wouldn't have put it like this then, but what it ended up being was to focus on the task at hand and to do that well, instead of questioning all the time, is this interesting? Is this glamorous? How will this set me up for the future? How am I going to get my next job? And you take yourself out of what you're doing and start planning. And I was forcing myself to be in it. So I sort of had to put all my energy towards how am I going to do this thing well? And then next time I'm going to do this other thing well. And that actually got a lot of attention in the company because the product of everything I was doing was actually really high quality and very unique, because I didn't really do any of those things before. So I approached it with a lot of originality and I put all my heart into it. And all of that kind of spoke for itself. I got promoted first to director and then later to chief operating officer. And every stage, the promotion actually came as a complete and total surprise. While before, I would have said, this is my next thing. And I would think about that every day and I would work towards that every day. So much so that when I got the promotion, it would kind of feel flat because I'd obsessed about it so much. So there was joy in it.
That makes sense. Was there kind of one task or project that was a game changer for you during that process?
Yeah, I actually talk about this one as well. And it's probably the most boring thing you can imagine. In Europe, they had this new privacy compliance thing they introduced called GDPR. And every platform that ever served any European customers needed to become GDPR compliant. So the way that people generally did it is hired consultants who then conducted a bunch of interviews with stakeholders and then wrote down, okay, based on all your processes and your product, we think these are the areas you need to tighten up. And when you're done, we'll write you an agreement, which you can then send to customers, sort of declaring yourself to be GDPR compliant. Maybe there's an element of right place, right time, or, you could see it as luck, or you could see it as Now you're ready. This is what you want to do. All your energy is in this particular direction. So everything that helps you move forward, all the tailwinds you can possibly get, finds you, like a sort of magical thinking, I guess. So for me to have decided to do that experiment and to have ended up at Expensify and to end up with this project, we're all kind of synchronous because the company and the way we've set up our culture always is not very traditional. So the advice I got wasn't do the thing that everybody's doing. Instead, David, our CEO, asked me, how would you do it? No one had ever asked me.
It was the questions. Yeah.
So then I just stopped being in autopilot and started to think, how would I do it? Like I'd never entertained that before. So I came up with my own plan because I knew our processes and our product and the compliance regs, the literature was all out there for you to read. So I read all of it, which was about as dull as it sounds, and maybe more. And then I mapped it back and said, okay, here are all the processes that need to get updated. Let's do that. And when I did that, and we still had to have this not certifying body, but like consultants would then say, okay, you've done everything. Now you can legitimately say you're GDPR compliant, legal, I guess.
Right.
Privacy legal lawyers. They said, oh, here are all these other things you actually missed. And that was a very long list. And also before that point in time, I would have had no real stake in the ground. So if they'd said, here are all these other things you need to do, I would have taken them for their word. But now I had a stake in the ground. I had an understanding. I'd done the work. I came up with this list that didn't include all these other things they were saying we need to do. So I was able to intellectually engage with it. And 9 out of 10 times I was correct, which was a shock to my system. And, it's not even about being correct. After that experience, I had this unshakable faith that what I didn't know, I could figure out. It was as simple as that. I just didn't have that before. And I've now come to a point where I think that is actually what I call self-confidence. Not to know everything, not to speak really well, not to be polished. Like all those things are great. But this voice in you that knows and will always remind you that whatever you don't know isn't scary. You can figure it out.
Right.
And that was kind of a game changer.
Yeah. I want to talk about visibility because it sounds like your CEO at Expensify gave you that opportunity to answer those questions and to be able to take stake in the growth opportunities. So for the professional that say is working in a Fortune 100 company and they're early in their career and they're doing the heads down work, the dull task, what would you recommend for them to do to get seen? And I know a lot of this too comes from the leadership side as well, but curious your perspective there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess every person's advice is biased to their experience. I just say that because, I mean, it's not like everybody's going to listen to me and go out the door and quit their jobs, but I feel a responsibility to add that caveat.
Yeah.
I think, given my experience with large companies, they serve a purpose. When I worked at Oracle and then I worked at Citibank, I needed to be there. At Citibank especially, I needed a job in 2009, which would get me a visa, which would keep me safe, because if I lost the job, I would lose my visa. I'd need to leave the country. So stability was important. And that was the perfect place for that. It was never, ever going to be the kind of place where I would have become who I am today. It's just not going to happen. It's not set up for that. So I think if I was talking to someone who's just starting out, I'd ask them, where do you want to be, let's say 10, 15 years from now? And not even to make that like the be all and end all, but there's a desire to be somewhere.
Right.
Is your current job going to give you a path to that? And if not, you need to know that you have to take some risks. And what better risk to take than to bet on yourself? So every day wake up and ask, am I betting on myself or not? Because if you're not, no one else is going to.
Right.
So figure out where you want to go and then take some chances. And if you're wrong, you'll take some other chances. Like life is so long. When I was 26, 27, I feel I was in a great rush. And every single step felt like, if I don't get this just right, life is over. And now I'm 42 and I feel like I can mess up.
Yeah.
And that's the opposite, right? Like I had more time then, but I didn't feel that way because I think our culture, fear is the fuel that we are given all the time to perform. And that kind of overwhelms us. So it's sometimes important to just understand that the road is curved and you'll figure it out.
Yeah. I felt the same way.
Yeah.
Late in my 20s of like, I have to be married. I have to have kids. I have to be in a leadership position. I had so many boxes that I needed and wanted to have checked already.
Yeah.
And they weren't.
Yeah.
And I think too, as women, there's so much pressure on us to be at a certain place.
Yeah.
But I love your perspective of no, like your career is ever evolving.
Yeah.
And I love the mindset that you're in now.
Yeah. The next opportunity might completely change. Like for me, it did. The next opportunity changed everything. But there was a build up of attitude and receptiveness to being bold, receptiveness to changing everything. That wasn't sudden. So, you're never wasting your time if you're deliberate about what you want.
Right. So I want to talk about confidence.
Yeah.
Have you had experiences of facing imposter syndrome, which every woman has, I feel like? So would love to learn a little bit more about that, how you've built your confidence, and especially moving to Expensify and being put in these positions where it's like, Anu, what are your thoughts? Bring something to the table.
Yeah.
What has that journey been like for you?
I have so many thoughts on self-confidence, I guess. It's been a lifelong journey and it'll last forever. I used to think self-confidence was some sort of a gene. Like you either have it or you don't. And those who don't have it will need to work so hard to fake it. Like this was my point of view. Probably wouldn't have expressed it like that, but with the benefit of time and distance, I know that's what I thought. And I had this almost envy, jealousy of people that were so polished that could just show up and speak about things that they had never done a single day's work in. And I valued that. And that's what I thought I needed to do. And maybe for some people it works. But now I have a totally, completely different perspective on self-confidence. When I'm talking to somebody, I can tell when they're faking it. So all those times that I valued that, I now feel, who are they fooling? You've never done a day's work in X and you're talking to me about X. I have no faith in you. You sound really good. Maybe I'll put you on camera in order to market this, but I'm not going to ask you a question about how I should approach this because you haven't done the work. And I feel that's also a very important leadership quality.
Yeah.
Do the work and then you can tell people how to do it.
Right.
So that's my point of view now. I think self-confidence is something you build up when you build up a portfolio of not just success, but also failures. Because every single thing teaches you something. 2 years ago, I ran all of our paid ads for Expensify, and I'd never been in marketing. I hadn't worked a day in it. We had an agency, so I had help. But when they tell me do X or do Y, I felt really uncomfortable because I didn't understand any of it.
Right.
And sort of, I guess there's a pattern in my approach. If I don't understand something, it makes me really uncomfortable. Discomfort is one word for it. Fear is another. I get very fearful that I'm spending money. I don't even understand how this works. So I kind of threw myself into how this all works and what algorithms will make sense. How should we optimize? What data should we feed? Had a great time with all that. But the entire project was a complete fail because after optimizing it 1,000 times, ROI was still highly negative. So we stopped doing it. And, for a while after you've spent all those hours trying to learn something and you feel you understand it and you still couldn't make it work, it did feel to me like a failure. And I hated that.
Yeah.
But now when I think about it, when someone makes a comment about a branded ad, or I can talk them under the table about why it works and why it doesn't.
Yeah.
And I value that. And I want to work with people who can engage with me on the details.
Right.
And you know what? Actually, as women, we have an advantage. We are very detail oriented. So I would encourage every woman out there to see themselves differently. If you know more than the next person and they sound better, know that somebody who also knows something about it will be able to spot them for that and spot you for your talent.
Yeah.
And hopefully that like pulls some people out of their shell.
Well, and in that scenario that you were in, now you can put yourself in the shoes of the person that is running those.
And
so
if they
you
have a new
appreciate
idea,
them.
totally. And if they have a new idea, I want to know and I want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And it makes me respect them. And I think when people respect you, they come to you for advice. They come to you for brainstorming. That's sort of what builds confidence, right? Like this feeling of I'm wanted here. People want to know what I think. But you want people you respect to do that. People you respect will recognize that you're a detail-oriented person.
Right.
That knows what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the effort to get to that person, not necessarily to sound like you know.
Yeah. I want to talk about mentorship.
Yep.
Because you're a mentor on our platform at her workplace.
Yep.
And you just mentioned, being able to find those people that see you and understand you.
Yeah.
What has your journey been like with mentors and sponsors? And how has that kind of shaped your career?
The people I've gravitated towards are, I guess, by definition, people that have drawn me out of my shell.
Okay.
How did they do that? I think it's sort of related to the previous point we were talking about, which is, I think they saw a spark in me that I didn't see.
Oh, I love that.
And would draw me out. When I became director at the time, David did that for me. He wanted me to think about what it would take for me to be a director before I was ever a director. And I just thought that I'd never entertained this idea that I would be a director there. And so I was doing good work, but I would have never really shot for that. And him asking me to think about it made it feel possible. And when it seemed possible, I immediately brought a different kind of energy.
Yeah.
So I think to be a good mentor is, there are lots of people who know exactly where they're going. They've got a plan. You mentor them too, why not? But I'm always a soft corner, I guess, for the underdog. The people doing the work that are not looking for glory, that are always diligently showing up. I'm all about how do we elevate you? Because we need that. It's the energy we need in the company.
Yeah.
So I would say when you're looking for a mentor, find somebody who embodies those kinds of qualities where they were the person showing up, doing the work, that you want to know their opinion about the work itself rather than just the director of the company or the CEO of the company, because one is kind of strategic. You think that if the CEO or the COO endorses you, you get promotions, but why should they endorse you? You need a connection with them.
Yes.
And sometimes it's better to have a connection with somebody who's actually embodying the qualities that you think are your strengths and what you admire rather than just the title.
And that person too that sees that spark in you.
Totally.
I had a mentor, still have a mentor like that I worked closely with at my former company. And I would have never thought I would be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But then he became one.
Yeah.
And
interesting.
It was that experience of going through the process with him, of him building his company.
Yeah.
And him encouraging me too.
Yeah.
Of like, Marilyn, you could do this.
Yeah.
You have really great ideas.
Yeah.
And I'm going to like push you off
the
ledge.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important is, again, making sure you have that connection.
Totally.
And ensuring that that person will go out and say your name in rooms that you're not in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I really like that image, pushing somebody off the ledge, because that's what it is, right? Like take a risk, like take a chance. And you're kind of holding yourself back for whatever reason.
Yeah. All right. So I want to shift gears and I want to talk about the leadership position that you're in and the teams that you've built. I want to learn more about what it's like building high performance teams and how do you lead them and encourage them and find those like little sparks in them that stand out.
Yeah. So I always like to think of a person with a spark, person with talent and humility that can collaborate well with people of various levels of performance as the ideal person on your team.
Yeah.
And the way that I have found people that I love working with is by sort of keeping an open door, being the person that people want to come and talk about their crazy ideas with is one of the most fun things in my job. And, the instinct when somebody comes to you with an idea that is unpolished, it's raw, is to immediately think of all the ways this thing might not work. And I don't think people do it to be negative. I think people do it to try to improve upon the idea, maybe, or to protect this person from feeling rejected if the company doesn't pick up the idea. I don't know what that instinct is. But for me, I think when someone comes to me with an idea is the most fun part of the job. And I try my very best, even if I don't instantly feel the idea is going to work, to sort of work with them a little bit to try to evolve it. Ideally, it goes to a place that's interesting and together you can build something. Or you get this person to the realization that the idea in its current iteration might not work, but hopefully they leave the conversation with a desire to sort of keep thinking about the problem they were trying to solve and come up with something else. And that, I think, is how you build a team that goes above and beyond, because you absolutely want a team that shows up and does the job, right? That's sort of table stakes. But then if you want people with a spark, if you want your work to be fun, if you want to go above and beyond and solve problems that are really challenging, you also need to work with people who sort of stay up at night because this thing is sort of annoying at them. They care about it that much.
Yeah.
But people are not going to care about the problems that you hope they will want to solve if they constantly feel nagged. So I think it's important to build a culture where you identify talented, humble people, but you're also building an environment that is conducive to failing, to putting forth good ideas, but also dumb ideas.
Yeah.
And to sort of collaborate and work to improve them together.
And that's so important.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, not every leader is like you. And I've been on the opposite end of this, to where I had leaders in the past that I worked with where I was that person and still am.
Yeah.
I'm that person that I have new ideas every day.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited about it.
Totally.
And I need those people, but on both sides of the coin, the one that comes to me and says, let's do it.
Yeah.
But I also need the person that's like, have you thought about all the risk here?
Totally.
Because it's good to have that.
Yeah.
But I've been in environments where not every leader supported ideas because it was potentially a threat.
Yeah.
So what would you encourage for leaders to do?
Yeah.
To not see the idea sharing as a threat, but more so potential opportunities.
Yeah. This idea of a talented person being a threat gets at the core of the problem.
Yeah.
I'm not a Steve Jobs fan or anything, but he says this thing where A players hire A players,
right?
But B players hire C players, and C players hire D players, and that's sort of how you have a clown car. Always really resonated with me. For me, and I'm not going to pretend I never felt threatened by anybody. Of course I did.
Right.
But when you feel that way, it's an opportunity to really think about where you're working and the culture that's been built even before you. Because that happens when you're in a world where there's a sense of scarcity.
Yeah.
There's only so much credit to go around. There's only so much money to go around. There's only one title. And in a place like that, you'll never, ever truly have a collaborative experience. because it's set up with a scarcity concept built in. So as a leader, I think if you're the CEO, if you're like the executive team who has the ability to call culture entire company, I would say make it not have a scarcity principle. It's very important. And then create an environment of positivity, because there's nothing more discouraging than getting shot down all the time.
The worst.
And I've definitely been on the other side.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you say yes to everything. It just means you push people to think through and improve upon what they want to do rather than say no, because that's a door shut.
Right.
I think those are probably the most important things.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to move on and talk about the Castanza Experiment. What is it? Share more.
I don't know if you've ever watched Seinfeld.
So I'm not a Seinfeld fan, but
you don't have to be. This is just an insanity episode where Costanza, who's, it's a certain type of character, right? He's, I think somebody called him a blundering idiot on a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode, and Larry David was very offended because it's based on him, right? But at least the character can be kind of blundering.
Yeah,
like does things with the greatest of intentions and is always getting them wrong and is getting rejected by women, etc. And he's just kind of sick of himself.
Yeah,
and he's telling his friends, just every instinct of mine is what's caused this to happen. So then his friends, as a joke, say, oh, then maybe you should do the opposite of your instincts. And it just kind of strikes a spark in him. And the rest of the episode, he's going around doing the opposite. Like he walks up to a girl and says, I'm unemployed and sleeping on my parents' couch. Why would you ever go out with me? Do you want to go out with me? And she's like, oh my God, yes, because, hilarious. But that was my inspiration to do the thing I was talking about earlier, which was, and honestly, I can't remember how it came to be. And I racked my brain because I'd love to tell a clear story.
Yeah.
But somewhere along the line, I used to watch Seinfeld all the time at that time. So it must have been me having another day where I was so frustrated with myself. And I watched this episode and I remember having this exact thought that I was describing earlier. I was so frustrated with who I am and I hated all my instincts because I kind of blamed them for why I was in this situation. Where it felt like I was at a dead end because there's not another thing to dream about as a way out of this. Because everything that I'm dreaming about and achieving is making it feel worse.
Yeah.
So I didn't know where to go. So that's kind of how it was born. The Castanza Experiment was to do the opposite of my instincts.
So are you still doing a little bit of that today?
That's a good question. So I started it when I joined Expensify 2015. By 2020, I was a director and I'd kind of forgotten about it, believe it or not. And during COVID, I had not a really tough time, that's dramatic. I had a period of blondness. I was unmotivated. I didn't know what I was really doing. I'd finished a really big project and I didn't know what I was going to do next. And we were all at home, which was actually super fun. My husband used to work at Intel and he would go from Oakland to Santa Clara at the time. I barely got any time with him. We barely got any time with our puppy.
Yeah.
And all of that changed, which was amazing. So maybe the contrast of how great life was and how unmotivated I was at work kind of made me seek out an executive coach, and Amy Wong. And I've worked with her ever since, and she's now my friend. And one of the sessions, she actually asked me, when was the last time you felt good at work? Because you've described that as a thing you felt before. And it came rushing back that it was the experiment that sort of started it.
Yeah.
So I had to recommit to it in 2020. And, it's 5 years from that point. A lot has happened. We went public and then we've had a few challenging years. Work is still fun, but very different as a result of being a public company. We're a different company. So maybe this podcast is sort of a reminder to recommit to it. I haven't really thought about it for a while.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what do you think about risk and intuition and identity. What do you think about all of those things today? Like, what's your perspective?
Risk. I used to think of leaving Citibank and working at Marqeta, and then leaving Marqeta to work for a no role, no required, completely loosey-goosey thing at Expensify as huge risks. I don't anymore. I think those were chances I took on myself. I wouldn't have expressed it like that then. And we were talking about this earlier. If I wasn't going to take those chances on myself, who was going to do it for me?
Right.
And if I hadn't taken those chances on myself, I would have never discovered myself, so to speak. So I think of them as it felt risky then in retrospect without taking some risks. You're just not going to change anything. Identity is an interesting one. I struggle a lot with that. I'm struggling a lot with that even now. There's a certain way that I saw myself as a kid. Performance was virtue. Virtue was performance. Like that's just how it was.
Yeah.
In some ways, I'll never not be that girl. And for the longest time, I wanted to be somebody else, somebody who wasn't so obsessed with success, but not success in your heart, not the knowledge that you're successful or confidence or anything internal, but external markers. I wanted to not be that girl. But now I have sort of a different point of view. I think I'll always be that girl. That girl was the fuel. That's the reason I got where I got. I don't hate her. I shouldn't have hated her. I don't hate her. I think I was always running away from her, and now I kind of turn around and say, you and me, we're both the same. We just coexist.
Yeah.
And that's helped me feel a lot of ease and acknowledging that it is always going to be important to me. I see people that have these big jobs and then they quit to do something completely different. Like, they love interior design, and so they do that. And I just feel an awe for them. I want to be that person someday who can say, I'm doing this because I love it. And when I don't love it, I'm going to do something else. I'm not there yet, but I'd like to be there someday.
Yeah. So we close every episode with 3 short questions to just learn more about how our guests are building their careers on their own terms. So I want to ask you the first one, what's something that you do every day to stay grounded?
I read. I was an only kid, and my grandmother was a big reader. I was raised by my grandmother. And so that's sort of how I would escape my lonely world and like inhabit others. And that's always stayed with me. And briefly in the middle, I wasn't reading as much. And it's kind of hard. Back in the day, that was the only source of entertainment. But now there's so much content on TV. And even when it's not good, you just sit there watching it. So it kind of gotten out of touch. And then when I got back in touch, I realized that was the thing that was missing in my life. I just read Liars Club. Loved it.
Oh,
fantastic book. So yeah, that's what I do to ground myself.
That's great. I need to get more into reading.
Yeah. It's
you have to make time for it.
Definitely. And it's all the I call it distraction, but like life, it's so busy and your phone. And I got off social media, which has giantly helped me.
What's something that you used to think was necessary for success, but you don't anymore?
Glibness, the ability to be hyper polished. And if somebody asked you a question or asked you about what you're doing, to have the most perfect elevator pitch. I hate that concept altogether now. Who values this?
Right.
If you're the type of person that wants an elevator pitch, you don't have the time to engage with somebody on a topic, don't ask them the question. It's just, so yeah, I used to think pleasing people like that, executives at big companies, big investment banking, managing directors, like the appearance of glibness and polish, I thought was everything.
Well, it's just what is valued so much more.
Absolutely.
Is who you are.
Yeah.
Your authentic self.
Yeah. And I think we're talking about that more now.
Yeah.
But when I was 2009, when I was 2008, when I was interviewing for banking internships, I didn't think anybody cared who I was. And it was a very lonely period for me because I just moved from India. I went to Cornell, but I'd moved directly. So I was what they call fresh off the boat.
Wow.
And I felt invisible. But at the same time, I felt like the odd one out. Like, how do those things coexist? Right?
Yeah.
So was I actually invisible? Were they interested in who I was? I'll never know because I didn't think they were. So I put on a show and that show definitely didn't work. So
Yeah.
we're talking more about being authentic and that we value each other's authenticity now.
Yes.
And that's really good.
Yeah. I think social media has done a lot of that with like TikTok and people are really sharing more about who they are and they feel comfortable doing that.
And that may be, social media gets a bad rap.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the good part of it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And last question, what does building a career on your own terms mean to you?
What is the value of your career? Of course, you need to make money. That's important. You can't really dismiss that.
Right.
But it's more than that, right? Like it's about how you see yourself. And when I was a kid, it was about being actually ironically who I am today.
Mm-hmm.
But having reached here, Amy, who was my coach that I told you about, she used to have this question, which I've never had a good answer for. She would always ask me, when you get where you want to go, how will you feel?
Oh, yeah.
And I've never asked myself that. Like there's been various things. Like when I get where I go, I'll be thin and I'll be beautiful and I'll have straight hair and I'll have these clothes and I'll be successful. All kinds of different things, but never what will I feel? And so I don't know even today what I'm supposed to feel, but I do feel that this is a lifelong quest of seeing yourself.
Yeah.
And your career is an aspect of your personality.
Mm-hmm.
I've never wanted kids, so I don't know. But a lot of my friends who are mothers say it's about how your kids see you, but you want to be the best version of yourself for them.
Right.
So maybe this is our quest with, like, I want my husband to see me a certain way, not fake way, but
right.
I want to be somebody for him, just as he's somebody for me.
Yes.
So maybe that's what our life is about.
Yeah. Well, there's no end.
Yeah.
And I love it when people like you say that of like, I don't need to like do all these things to finally feel satisfied.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing journey.
Definitely.
So don't think of it that way of like, okay, when I have all the clothes and I have the perfect job, then I'm going to be happy.
Yeah.
It's like, how can you find happiness now?
Yeah.
In the things that you are doing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, you can be a complete person today and still want things in the future.
Yeah.
And they are not mutually exclusive.
Right. Well, thank you.
Yeah, I had a great time.
That was
Thank you
really
for having
great.
me.
Yes. Thank you for joining us and really loved hearing more about you and your story.
Yeah, thank you. I'm looking forward to also watching your other guests.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, pleasure.